Hey champs, welcome back to another insightful episode of Yoga Biz Champ. I'm Michael J, and today's episode is all about finding your true north in yoga studio ownership. Our guest today, Arundhati, didn't start her yoga journey intending to own a studio. Instead, she built her thriving community organically, class by class, responded directly to what her students needed and wanted at the time. Arundhati shares openly about the unconventional path she took, overcoming the initial awkwardness of becoming a leader, managing boundaries, and understanding the critical importance of knowing your why. Yes, your why. Together, we'll explore how she built a dedicated team, her approach to balancing multiple creative businesses, and her advice for yoga teachers and studio owners looking to stand confidently in their roles. This conversation for me is a powerful reminder that studio success isn't just about the numbers, even though they're important. It's about impact, authenticity, and deep connection. So if you've ever questioned your path in yoga or wondered how to step confidently into leadership while staying true to yourself, this episode is exactly what you need. So take a deep breath, grab a cup of tea or chai in this case, and let's dive deep into Arundhati's inspiring story of resilience, community, and authentic yoga leadership. Enjoy. Welcome to an episode of Yoga Biz Champ. Today I'm thrilled to have Arundhati, who is an immigrant yoga teacher who built her thriving career from scratch. Despite having no prior business experience background, I want to talk about that. She's the creator of the Let's Talk Yoga podcast, recently surpassing 1 million downloads. Congratulations, that's not a small feat. And the owner of Aham Yoga in Seattle, a full-scale studio offering both in-studio classes, online streaming services for 12 years. Arundhati trains hundreds of yoga teachers from around the globe each year through her signature pranayama teacher training, love that niche, and other advanced courses with students spanning over 220 countries. She's also juggled multiple creative pursuits as a Bollywood choreographer with Bollywood dance studio called Bollyworks, also 12 years old, YouTuber and passionate content creator, love to get into that, guided by her mission to raise the bar for yoga education. Arundhati champions better standards for teaching and empowers fellow instructors to thrive in ever-evolving wellness landscape. And when she's not on the mat, she's sipping her chai, doting on her beloved dogs, and embracing new hobbies that spark her curiosity and joy. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'd love to know, can you give us kind of an overview? I'd love to know, what was your journey prior to studio ownership? I'd love to know kind of the path. And I'm also really always curious about that initial spark that said, I got to get me some more of this.
I had no clear direction, to be very honest. I did not start doing yoga with the intention of being a studio owner. That was what I would now call a happy accident. It ended up, I didn't start a studio. I started a couple of classes, hoping that somebody wanted to be in that room, wanting that yoga. And I had just moved from India to America back then, almost 13 years at this point. And I had only one goal or dream, was to teach yoga. And I was very naive. I had just moved across the globe. I had not really thought anything through. And I started teaching a couple of classes. And eventually those couple of classes evolved into Aham Yoga. So I took what I call the reverse entry into studio ownership.
Yeah, I like it when you call it unconventional.
Yeah. And it is, so one class became two classes. Yeah. And those weeknight classes, somebody was like, will you offer a Saturday morning class? I was like, sure, I'll offer a Saturday morning class. Saturday became two classes. That went to Sunday. So everything that we have done over almost the past 12 years at Aham Yoga is something that the community asked for. They asked for workshops. We did a workshop. They asked for a retreat.
So did you have a space though? Like when you did those one or two classes, did you actually have the space then? Or
I have been in the same location for the past 12 years, touch wood. And I found this place that you would rent by the hour back in the day.
Yeah.
And so I would literally just, if somebody asked, I would see if that time slot was available. If not, I would find another workaround. And it was a shared space back then. I'm still at the same space, but now I have more of a hold and a lease over it than before. But I share it with another ballet teacher, and two of us kind of co-own or co-rent the space in many ways. But I took that reverse unconventional build up into a studio. So I never was riddled with the pressures of studio ownership or lease ownership more than studio ownership. And I could build as people came in. I didn't build and then said, now come in, here's all that I have. So it was community driven. And we still have less classes than the conventional yoga studio on schedule. On a given day, at best, we will have 2 or 3 classes running. And that's plentiful for.
But you know, I'm just guessing, you know, when your audience wants a class.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. It's like those are really prime times for those people, right?
Yeah, we have our prime time, our peak slots. We experiment. And I have been at that studio 12 years, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. So we've been very integrated with the community. So my goal was never to have a studio.
Yeah, I love that.
It was always to teach yoga. And if that meant this is how I do it, it evolved into this.
I had a chat yesterday so I get a lot of I have a lot of intro calls with people, you know, thinking about opening a studio or needing help with the yoga studio. And I met with a couple yesterday, and they're dreaming of a yoga studio in California. And I said, and they was feeling pressure from a landlord about taking it. And I'm like, what I've learned over the years with my own studio and then with watching other studios, and as yoga teachers, tap into those meant to be's, those things that naturally unfold, and that there's a easy path there. It shouldn't feel difficult. But I always say, just really don't tune that out. Like really, you know, listen to those things that unfold in front of you.
Mm-hmm. It's that, and it's also a couple of other things, right? First, you have to find your why.
100%.
And until you find your why, everything else is then external of that why. So I think anyone who wants to teach yoga in a broader capacity has to have that why. Because
can you go on more about that? I'd really want I want people to hear this because it's the differentiator.
It is.
It is the differentiator, but it's also the clarity as a studio owner for you. And so I'd love if you could just share what your thoughts on that. I'd love people to hear that, because when I meet with people, I make them go back to their why if they don't have one.
And I still go back to my why, because sometimes I'm like, oh my God, why am I doing this? You know? And I don't have one service-based business. I have 2 between the dance studio and this.
Yeah.
And so it is a lot of work. But for me, the why got established really early on. And I don't have a special formula. I don't have a way of making people discover this, but it was something very internal. And it's hard for me to describe, because there was something I found when I came to yoga, and something that made me feel like, okay, this is home. And this is so common for people who practice yoga, right?
Yeah.
And one of my
everybody listening is probably hearing that and feeling that. Yeah.
And I had very grounded teachers, very simple, who nothing was performative in their world.
Yes,
nothing.
Yeah.
And they were just so rooted in just teaching. And in many ways, I've been teaching for 21, 22 years at this point.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And so it's just where I feel at home. But my ethics got instilled at a very early on point in yoga. And I think, Michael, for some of us who came to yoga before social media took over, before these performative markers got put in place, right? I just think we are grounded a little differently. And we didn't step into the noise. We noticed the noise and eventually decided to participate in it, but we weren't initiated by it. I don't know if that makes sense, but
you're actually on a theme of probably the last 3 episodes. Because back then there was, so I've said I'm not going to go too deep on this because I've already talked about it, but back then it was the community studio before the franchise model kind of happened, and also the teachers were very authentic in the teaching. And so my teacher Joya Irwin, I said this on the last episode, we paid up front to learn from her in a disgusting basement with gross props. And it was about the learning and the training. And the best teachers in Vancouver came out of that dirty basement.
Yes.
And they're the teachers that learned how to see, and I feel like it was a different time. Not to put anything down of now, but it is definitely more mass, more everything. And like you said, more classes on the schedule, more, there's a lot of more in there.
There is a lot of more. And I think also the bar of entry has changed. Back in the day, the bar of entry into anything was higher in some way. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing for yoga, but the bar of entry has also moved. But one thing I want to go back to, because you spoke about that couple who you were talking to yesterday, is oftentimes, and I've noticed this, at least in America, is we get caught up in the bells and whistles of a studio space. And something I always have stood by is all you need is 4 walls and a clean space.
Exactly. Your walls are a prop.
Yeah. And you don't need anything. You don't need the mirrors. You don't need the music system. You don't need a fancy locker room. You don't need any of that. Nobody's coming to a yoga studio to take a nice shower. If that's your main selling point, that I have fancy locker rooms, then something is off. Our studio is
it's a space. Yeah.
There's no screens, there's no clocks. Until the pandemic, we were a Wi-Fi free, internet free zone. And now, because we live stream, we have internet in there, but we don't give our passwords out. We're like, hey, phones away, hidden. I want you to pretend like you're in Yoga Shala with me when I was in yoga.
I love it. Yeah.
And it is, and then we talk about pratyahara and things like that in classes. Yeah. But we get so trapped by, this is what a yoga studio needs to look like. I have often said, you can teach in your apartment building fitness rooms. You can teach on Zoom. You can teach in community centers. Don't think that your yoga has to be, for it to matter, it has to be at a yoga studio. Studio business is harder and depends on who's running the studio. So think more out of the box as a yoga teacher. And yeah.
I'd love to. So this studio naturally evolved. At what point, because I feel like this is the conversation I have a lot with studio owners, because I see you have a manager and it says on your website you've had for 5 years. And I'd love to know at what point you said, I can't or I don't want to do it all by myself, or it's worth, I'll say, if somebody's going to invest in a person, a coach, a software, whatever it is, there should be a good return on that. And so I'd love to know, at what point did you go, okay, this is really a business now and I need help to move it forward? I'd love to kind of know where that happened.
For years, I did everything by myself.
Yeah.
And that's just what I could afford. And that's what I did. And I don't have a business background, right?
Scrappy.
Yes. And I'm very, be scrappy, get going. Okay. So for the first, I would say 3 years, I did everything by myself. I taught, and I also believe as a business owner, you should be in every department.
Well, because you're all the roles, right? So yes, you know how to clean the toilet, you know how to be a marketing person, a salesperson.
Yeah, and whether it's not about whether you love it or don't love it. If your why is strong enough, you will do what is needed, right?
Yep.
So for the first few years, I didn't. First, at least 3 years. Okay. And then I hired someone for like 5 hours a week. And it was very basic admin. And I myself had never had a team, right? So I had to go teach myself.
And you had to learn how to be a boss.
Yes. And how to lead someone else. And So for the next couple of years, I just had admin support, 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, things like that. And my studio manager today, in a couple of months, she'll be with us for 6 years. And she started as my admin assistant, remote, from Washington State, but remote. And we've met only once in person, I think last year, but otherwise we've been remote.
Fantastic.
And now she handles a lot more of what we do, but I didn't get there overnight.
Yeah.
It took me years to build up to it. But I would say it comes down to knowing very clearly what you can and should want and need to delegate. And I have a tough time with delegation to date. Because I never wanted a team.
Well, I always find sometimes it's like, by the time I explain how to do it, I could just do it.
Yeah. Oh, I did that for so long. But it's also realizing that your time is better used elsewhere.
So I always say triple down on your superpowers and the things that really feed you, and delegate the things that drag you down, you get bogged down by, don't enjoy.
I would actually say something a little different.
Okay.
I would say you got to do it all.
Yep.
And then if you have plenty of time left over and you can do it all and you don't need that help, fine, go for it. If you're teaching 2 classes a week, right, and you don't have a full-scale studio or a second business or a full-time job, you could probably manage most things of your business. But if you are feeling maxed out in capacity, then delegate, right? And when you delegate, don't delegate only things you don't like.
Okay.
Delegate what needs to be delegated. Okay, like I don't like sitting and looking at numbers and finances and tax things and reporting, and I don't like that stuff.
Yeah,
I am still there. Now my manager is in it too. She actually has taken over that side of it. But I am there too, keeping an eye on it, going through things. So I would say, don't get lost in, I only have to teach yoga. I only have to teach yoga. This is also your yoga in many ways.
Yeah.
And so delegate what needs to be delegated. It may not always be what you enjoy.
Yeah. Can you talk about the energy of your week or your day? Danielle Barbeau from the River Yoga spoke on my podcast, and I bring this up a lot because I really like it, how she spoke about her work week being like a yoga class. Wednesday being peak pose, like the warm up, Wednesday being peak pose, and then coming down, and Friday maybe taking half a Friday off and having a bit of a weekend. But I quite often talk to people about their energy. If they're teaching 5 classes a day, you don't have the energy to switch modes to go into marketing.
So my day is usually built like this. 9:30 a.m., I'm logged in. The morning's a little slow. At this point, at this season, I am at the studio 6 days a week. And so 9:30 to about 2 p.m., 2:30 p.m., I'm here at my desk doing all things admin, marketing, content creation. And again, I have 2 studios, right? The dance thing, the yoga thing, and then the online world of things. So I'm jumping, I context switch quite a bit. And I do have, like today is all things Bollywood, and that studio. Tomorrow is all things teacher training.
So you time block,
batch work, but it doesn't always, it's not always, you're not able to keep it bulletproof like that. It does. Sometimes there are urgent fires you need to go put out.
Right.
So usually I have 9:30 to 2:30 blocked off for backend, then a small break. Then I work towards whatever needs to get done for evening classes. Right now, we're building up to our show, our dance production. So there's a lot of choreography and stage work and things going on. So I will sit and create for all the creative things. And then 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., I'm at the studios. So
that's a lot of energy. Yeah, it's a big day.
It is. And I always remind myself, I came here with nothing, not a single student. I started from zero. And the days I'm like, oh my God, this is too much. I just have to remind myself that this is self-created. And it can be a problem or it can be a beautiful thing. So sometimes I have to remind myself.
Can you go away on vacation and things keep ticking along?
Now, yes.
Yeah.
Now, because I have support teachers, all our teachers are trained at the studios. We have now, yes. For years, I didn't do it. If I went on vacation, the studio closed. But
or the email went with
you. Yeah. It was a build-up. And I've gotten very good at catching my burnout phases, and I've been in and out of burnout a few times, and to recognize it and to get ahead of it, and to figure out systems and things that will help support me through it. And also, I've gotten better at asking for help. Something I used to struggle with.
Yeah, I feel like when you can build a little bit of a team help, that's where you can just go to the kind of next stage. And I feel like it also gives a bit more freedom for a studio owner. Like I feel like the systems give a little bit of more freedom.
Systems, tools, technology, use it to your advantage. But I also think boundaries, right? Like boundaries with yourself and with others. Like I have very clear boundaries with my students. I teach and then I leave. I do all the interaction live in person, but I'm not on my phone chatting away at night. Right. And I don't sit and tag 25 people in every picture. I don't do that. We have an official content creation loop for the studio and my own page. But the next time I interact with a student is when they're back in class. So energetically, I get to disconnect. And I think that helps because you're not mentally there still, though that was a learning curve for me, but very clear boundaries on this is work, this is home, this is studio.
Can we go back a little bit to something you touched on before, and that is team leadership? And I talk about this a lot because it's something that I feel like I help a lot of studio owners do, but it's also something I feel like the yoga teacher, because you say here that you are also champion for better standards for teaching, but I want them to always feel like they're standing in their own two shoes of their or bare feet of their studio and able to fair and firmly say what my expectations are for my studio. And I feel sometimes there's a lot of shyness around a studio owner when they first start having to all of a sudden be boss. And have a need to put a structure in place. Can you talk about that phase for you and that learning of having no business to now going, oh, I'm in charge of a team and of the client experience?
I remember my early days. I would hesitate to ask clients to pay for classes, and I remember because I still have that bodily experience of standing there and noticing this client walk out without paying. But feeling very awkward to go ask them to pay for class. And then I would come home and I would vent to my husband that I didn't do it, and he would just look at me and be like, yeah, just decide, is this a hobby or is it your business? Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to get comfortable with that role. But what I did was I said, okay, these are systems. For someone to be in class, they have to pay. And if one student is not paying and all others are paying, it is not right for the ones who are paying. So if I want to be very even towards everybody and tapping back into my ethics, that is not right. So what does that entail? Me having a very back then uncomfortable conversation of, hey, you got to pay. It's common sense, right? You pay for something, you are going to go. And so it was me that was the problem. And so now I made it very clear that you got to pay. I would have some signage up and I would do check-ins before class. Mm-hmm. And I would stand there at the door near the desk and I would be like, oh, okay. Back then it was paper punch cards, Michael. That's how old the studio is.
That was that was my studio. We had a box and then we had a binder and I had somebody checking the punches versus the binder. That's what I paid someone to do. That was my admin.
I used to have pen and paper and like an attendance sheet. And then we went to the box and the binder.
And I was like, nobody starts class until everybody's checked in.
Yes, because I've had clients who would, and to me, this is the problem of the industry, where you allow people to come to classes for free. It's something we don't do.
Yeah,
we don't offer free classes. And where I live, it's a very privileged neighborhood. So everybody who's coming there is working at Google, Microsoft, Facebook, Amazon, and they're not getting any free classes at a small business.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of principle. So I would just be there checking everybody off. And I would, over time, got a little bolder in saying, oh, have we checked you in? Oh, you don't have a pass. Okay, we can take care of that right now. It'll take 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And now it's seamless. Now everything's digital now.
Yeah.
Everything's on the app. People will come in. It's gotten better. But the only thing that made me get over that awkwardness of standing up and telling people what to do was realizing that the ship is either going to sink or sail.
Yep.
And I always want to be very professional. So everybody in the room pays or nobody in the room pays. So those kind of ultimatums for myself is what made me eventually get over that hump. I'm very...
but then you have to apply that to your team now for the structure, that there's expectations, and you're now the boss of people, that you want to arrive on time, that you want to reflect your why and your values, and you want them to be the best teachers. But now you're in a role back then of having to hire and have expectations. Can you talk about that part there?
Yes. So all the teachers at the studio were once students at the studio.
Okay.
And they went through our teacher training programs and willingly chose to cross over.
Yeah.
And then we auditioned them and picked.
Create your own team. Yeah.
So everybody there is extremely integrated into the community.
Yeah.
And so I'm aware of the struggles yoga studio owners have with their teachers and staff, but touch wood, we have a wonderful teaching staff. They are there ahead of time. Everything's usually handled. We have our back-end communication groups. If something is off, they know I'm a phone call away. And we've never really run into issues.
Okay.
Occasionally, they get stuck on the app. They don't know how to do a few things. They just reach out to my studio manager, and she'll sort it out. And we've never really had ugly instances, difficult moments. We've always been able to build a culture of living your yoga in many ways, right?
Yeah.
And so I've not had a rough time with my teachers because they have all been students. The yoga has helped them so much that they went into this teaching role. So it's a very tightly knit teacher group.
I love that. Yeah.
And yeah. There are only more positive things than negative there. So it warms my heart.
We're kind of at the first quarter of 2025. And what do you do looking to look ahead with your business? Because with my coaching folks, we meet every October and we plan out the entire year ahead and look at data in the software to make decisions based on data, not just things feeling right. I'd love to know how you look ahead.
So we look at it as 4 different quarters.
Yep.
And I have a rough idea of, so classes run all through. Then there's the next level, which is workshops and one-time events. Then there's a level higher above that, which is your long-form teacher trainings and the ones that require more time and commitment. So the classes are something that span 12 months. Once we put something on schedule, we give it a certain amount.
So you stick to that for 12. So you stick to that to see if it works, and then and then assess it.
And honestly, Michael, there are only that many peak hours in a day.
Yeah.
Right. So to make sure we know that if the studio is available from so and so time, and these are our peak hour slots, we got to have something scheduled in there. So the classes are set up first. Then we now have started looking at one-time events and workshops. And we need to know per quarter what's happening next quarter. That's it for workshops.
Okay? And they need time to promote, right? Instead of being just
you need a 3-month.
Throw it on. Yeah.
3-month emergency 6-week build up, but that's it. Anything that comes under 6 weeks, we're not doing it. We'll wait. So quarter to quarter for workshops. The teacher trainings, because they are also that 12-hour days for
and they take a
my
different
calendar.
marketing too.
Yeah, we do that. We look at about 6 to 8 months ahead of time. Just to put it on the website, put it on the calendar, start talking about it. But that's how we go. Classes are set up first, then all your workshops quarter to quarter. About 2 quarters ahead, we look at long form launches and to build that in.
Great. I think it's so important. I feel like there's so many studio owners that are reactionary to what is happening right now. And it's like, I'm canceling a class because, and it's like, well, that class may need analyzing. Is it teacher time, style, or more marketing?
Yeah. And so I also think what yoga teachers need to do, and I'm speaking from my learnings and what I had to teach myself, was to take the long view.
Yeah.
Right. And to really, I stepped out of yoga to teach myself some of these skills. I would listen to podcasts. I would read books.
Yeah.
I would go enroll in courses that would help me write better emails or marketing or something. I don't think I've done a marketing course, but generally communication. Because I believe I always talk to yoga teachers about this. Cueing is not your only thing. You are communicating. So you have to get better at communication, not cueing. If you are stuck in cueing, you have lost a lot of context. So
and the relationship.
Yeah. And so really I had to step outside of yoga to give myself these skills.
Yeah.
And I would recommend that anybody who's looking at studio ownership, firstly, I'd be like, why? There are other unconventional ways to get all the joys of teaching yoga. But if you're looking at conventional studio ownership, then step out of yoga, go learn this in a good, wholesome way, and then integrate the two in a way that makes sense for you.
Yeah. Can we talk about social media on that? Because I feel you've got a really good following and you are very confident when you show up on social media. And I feel like that's something I have conversations with shy yoga studio owners all the time. And I'm like, you are your biggest cheerleader for your business. Like you need to scream and shout. And so I even have them just practice if they're, talkies are the thing right now, like Shannon Crow is going for a walk in the snow and she's giving updates on her life and the podcast and all of things but people follow along with those things. And it's about, so I say, just film it. You don't have to use it, but just keep getting used to filming. And so can you give any tips because you show up on social media, you love social media. I also say to people, it's not, when you're trying to get new leads, social media is not the be all end all because not everybody's following you on social media yet. Right. So, but I'd love to, if you can give some tips on how you show up on social media and the confidence that you convey.
I'm glad it appears confident to you. The truth is, I think of social media as email with pictures and video. So are you on email every day? I mean, yes, probably every day, but are you hanging there all the time? Probably not. I hope not. Okay. So to me, social media is, for a business owner, it is a non-negotiable. Okay. But it is more than that for me. It connects to my why. And if I want to do this, then this social media, being a participant in it, is a necessary requirement. Now, I'm not on the app often. I'm on it every day, but I'm not on the app often. I go in there, I do my posts. I barely follow any yoga teachers, just follow a few yoga teacher friends of mine. I don't actively consume yoga content.
Interesting. Yeah,
I consume dog funny videos, a lot of cooking videos that I will never make. I'll just watch them with my eyes. And then some skincare things that are not my yoga world, things that are not reminding me of work and office. I don't even follow anybody.
And even comparing to other people on
because there's
in
that
the same
FOMO
industry.
sets in, right?
Yeah.
So I don't learn yoga on Instagram. But so my Instagram world is actually, I post my things and then I enjoy other things on the medium. So I believe you have to be very clear on, are you going to entertain or are you going to educate somebody? Mm-hmm. So once you are a little clear of that, it gets a little better. But going back to your question of how do you get more comfortable with social media, the only answer is to show up.
Yeah.
And there is it
Right.
be scrappy and learn how to use the medium and understand how much of the medium you really need. Okay. If you are teaching at a yoga studio and you are not responsible for bringing in the students, you probably don't need to be on the medium much. As a creator, you could be a consumer.
Yeah.
But if you are stepping into the role of being that creator, then figure out what you are creating and then just show up and delete it if needed. Okay.
Yeah. And you enjoy that part, right? But do you enjoy the creation process?
So I think, yes, now I do.
Yeah.
But I think what really made me comfortable with it was I've been on stage for very long and I'm used to smiling and performing on stage.
Yeah.
So I'm used to that. That I think has helped me stick a phone in front of my face.
Yeah.
And say something and then put it away and not be bothered. Now you meet me socially and say, come pose for a picture. I'd be very awkward. But if it's class, if it's work, it's easier for me. Yeah. So the answer I'm trying to give you here is do it anyway. Do it scared. Do it awkward. The first 10 times it will be awkward. After that, you will start enjoying it. Or if you don't enjoy it, you will notice it is necessary. And also walk away from the medium, right? Don't keep staring at that same thing 20 times, judging yourself. And you have to learn to live your yoga in all these business aspects of it. So show up.
Just show up. Just do it. Just
do it.
Do the work. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't copy someone else's style. Find what is authentic.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, I follow marketing people. I don't follow yoga people in that sense, but I follow people that know how to do marketing. And I will say to my students, if you don't know how to do it, just go to the wonderful University of YouTube. There's a 5-minute video that's going to show you. Even better, 30-second, 1-minute clip on TikTok's probably going to give you an answer too.
I'm not on TikTok, so I don't know that world yet. But I also think it is, again, it goes back to the why, right? If you are unclear of what you are up to in your teaching world, you will just get influenced by everybody. You will think you have to teach philosophy. You will think you will have to teach anatomy. You won't have your bearings, right? So to really hone in on what you are able to offer. And it's something I've said a lot of times. Learn a little yoga and learn it really well. Teach a little yoga and teach it really well. You don't have to know everything. You just need to know a little. And you just need to be able to go really deep in that little that you teach. So yeah.
I'd love to know, kind of wrapping this, I'd love to know what is your why?
My why is so basic. It is, I love teaching. I have figured out in the past 22 years that what I like to do is teach. Yeah. Right now, I happen to be teaching yoga, but it's that teacher role. So my goal is, or my mission is to be able to be of impact. I don't want to influence anybody. I want to be of impact. I want to, in some way, have somebody live freer in their body, in their mind, in some way. And that is the core of my why. So if that means I stretch someone's lower back in asana class, fine. Or is that something I said in a philosophy class that really clicked and changed someone's life in some way? Then it's that. But to teach something and to be of impact, that is my why. And I keep going back to it. It's more a feeling than what I can put in words.
Well, you're so right, because when I work with people and I say you have to figure out your why, your mission, vision, values, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I can't really help you too much. I can give you direction, but it has to come from within you and it has to be true to you. And for that, it's like a bit of a therapy process.
It is. And it's also a very vulnerable journey. And I think, Michael, something yoga teachers often forget or don't realize early on is how much time this takes, time and effort. It's real work, it's real time, and it's the results come more slowly. But the work has to be done upfront and regularly. But the results will slowly unfold over time. But I think we expect instant return very quickly. And we are looking at all these big accounts and big businesses, and we're trying to think that's what we think is success in yoga, right? Those internal markers versus external markers of success. So I always say, don't look at external markers of success. See what your internal markers are. And are you meeting those internal markers? Your yoga doesn't have to be on display for anybody else. So, and for some people, they just think studio ownership is the pinnacle of being a successful yoga teacher. Talk to most studio owners. You will hear a very different story, right? So it's really that getting clear on why you are in this, and also having realistic expectations.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it was such a pleasure to meet you and learn about you. And I'd love to wrap up with a few fun questions. Something that most people wouldn't know about you.
That I'm very shy. Because you said I appear confident on social media. I'm an introvert. I like to be left alone. And I can speak in a yoga room, but outside.
Isn't that weird?
If I see my students sometimes walking in a street or a store somewhere, I've actually turned and hidden my face every now and then.
You know, it's funny. I've had a fear of public speaking my whole life, being on stage. But as a yoga teacher in my space that I created, I can confidently stand there and be like, follow me. And then, you put me into when I was a vice president of a local hospice society, and they wanted me to MC the event. And my head was sweating and my nervous system was just, it's not. So it's an interesting dynamic though. It's like a role. I think sometimes we can stand into it.
It is. Yeah. And you have a public life, but a private personality. That's how.
Yeah. What's your favorite business tool, website, or app?
Ooh.
Geeky.
I love it. WhatsApp.
Okay. Why?
Because yes, I use it mainly. That's how I speak to my studio manager.
Yep.
WhatsApp. We have our teacher studio groups. And a lot of work actually happens on WhatsApp for us, communication-wise, organization-wise. It's a good way to store things. Tutorial videos, when teachers at the studio need something, we have quick tutorial videos, everything in WhatsApp groups organized. So WhatsApp, Canva.
Yeah.
Okay. Notion.
Best value. Notion for project
I was
management.
one of Canva's early adopters back in the day. And
so Notion for project management.
Notion for myself. Notion for my courses, podcasts. My work zone is Notion. Though I also end up wasting time in there because trying to do stuff in Notion. But but my studio manager works on Trello.
Yeah, I'm a Trello fan.
Oh, is it? I'm not there.
What's your go-to website or app for fun? Time out. YouTube. You get lost on YouTube?
I actually don't get lost on any app anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think my plate is just so full right now. I can't afford to. I've gotten lost on doom scrolling and things like that. YouTube. And I will watch useless cooking videos that I will not make anything from. And I will watch it over and over again. And I'll watch it like I have so many culinary skills. But my guilty.
I love that. And if you were a yoga pose, what would you be and why?
Downward facing dog.
Why?
I just feel so effortless in it.
That's not everybody's experience.
I know. But I'm long-limbed. So my body just goes into it.
How do people find you? And we'll put it in the show notes too.
Well, if you are on Instagram, it's Arundhati Baitmangalkar, because why not? It's a long name. That's where I am on Instagram. I'm also at my studio at Aham Yoga. We have online streaming, live stream, as well as in-person classes. And I am in the podcast world as Let's Talk Yoga. So all these three places and then some. And then through the podcast, we do our online courses and we announce those as a newsletter. But everything is
and just quickly, your podcast. So if it's yoga teachers, yoga studio owners listening here, can you tell them a little bit about what your podcast covers?
So the podcast covers, it was created to be a timeless resource for yoga teachers, like a continuing education tool for yoga teachers. I actually call it free yoga teacher training, sitting there for people. We cover a range of topics from teaching methodology, teaching tips, sequencing, philosophy. We get nerdy about sometimes the marketing and business side of things. So it's meant to be a teacher's companion, a teacher's toolkit in many ways. So you want to learn about something in philosophy, chances are we've covered it. And I've always wanted to have access to world-class teachers. And living in sleepy Redmond, you don't have that access. So I was feeling very cut off. And the yoga nerd in me wanted a resource like this. So I went ahead and created it.
I love it.
And it's mainly meant to be continuing education for yoga teachers.
Well, thank you for being on here and inspiring yoga studio owners and wannabe yoga studio owners. And thank you again it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you today.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in, champs. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to this channel. It means a lot. And if you're ready to open your own studio or grow your current one, visit yogabizchamp.link/YouTube to book your free strategy call with myself and explore my Start a Studio and Grow a Studio packages. And you'll also get access to all of my free Yoga Biz Champ resources, yogabizchamp.link/YouTube. And you can check out other insights and follow me on all social media platforms at Yoga Biz Champ. See you next time.